Yesterday, while we were taping our show, Morning Joe decided to go a little bit later, on the air. There were some questions apparently. They're like, hey, why are they here in this hour? They're not usually here, at this time. And it turns out that the president decided to phone in to his favorite morning show, just like Donald Trump did over the years, whenever he would call into Fox and Friends.
He literally called into Morning Joe too in the early days.
True.
Remember that?
He also called into Morning Joe. I forgot.
The whole Mika facelift
before
situation.
He accurately talked about Mika Brzezinski's facelift. But whenever Biden has called in, he is exhibiting the same behavior of basically just ranting and raving at the screen while Mika and Joe try to massage what he's doing. But my personal favorite line is when Biden admits straight up that he is reading basically off of prepared notes while he is on live television. Let's take a listen to that.
The American public is not going to move away from me as an average voter. And again, I'm here for two reasons, pal. One, to rebuild the economy for hardworking middle-class people, give everybody a shot. Just a straight shot. Everybody gets a fair chance, number one. Number two, remember all this talk about how I don't have the black support? Come on, give me a break. Come with me. Watch. I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce the president. Challenge me in the convention.
Said, well, as long as I did the best I could do, that's the most important thing. That's caused Democrats concern who believe that losing is not an option. What would you say to those who are concerned by that answer?
It's not an option, and I've not lost. I haven't lost. I beat him last time. I'll beat him this time. And this is a guy who, look, we talk about debates. Look at his performance at debates. He lied over, Trump has 50 lies. Look, this is a guy who says 10% of the universe. I don't want to get into it. He's just a liar. And he hasn't done a damn thing since the debate. He's been riding around in a golf cart for 10 days or down in Mar-a-Lago talking with his wealthy friends. Nobody said anything except me and the folks out there in the local race, he said, I did nothing to stop Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In fact, he said, I think I encouraged Russia from going, I think he encouraged Russia going in. I'm reading from the list of lies. First of all, he was made up quotes, suckers and losers. I was with it. He called the Americans in the cemeteries from World War I suckers and losers. And so this guy's going to have to start to answer for what he did.
Yeah, so did everyone catch that little admission? I'm reading here from a list of lies, AKA he's got notes in front of him. By the way, Karine Jean-Pierre confirmed that. She's like, yes, the president had notes in front of him. It's also funny just because I've been in the room for something like that. I can literally see in my mind's eye what's happening. Biden is sitting there with a speakerphone, right? Mm-hmm. He's surrounded by aides who are pointing to little things on his notes, shuffling papers in front of him. That's what you need to do, a 10-minute call-in to
with the
Morning Joe?
The friendliest possible.
Dude.
It's also worth asking whether they got the questions in advance too.
Krystal, there is a camera for MSNBC 10 feet from the Oval Office. He can walk right over there. I'm telling you, I've been there. I know right where it is. They'll set it up for you. They'll even come into the Oval and then boom, you're ready to go live on camera. If you really have so much confidence, then do it. Then do it. And this is why, because even whenever he's reading from his list of notes, he sounds completely incoherent.
Yeah.
It is shocking.
That's the thing. Yeah. And I just have to laugh at this point because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yes.
After this interview, the number of Democrats that were like, he sounded so strong. It was amazing. Karine Jean-Pierre at the podium yesterday, it was a powerful performance. Did you listen to the same interview? Okay, he sounded a little more lively than the debate because they got him in his good hour of the day. He's got aides sitting next to him. He's got a list that he's reading off of, and he's still wildly incoherent. This is as good as it gets, guys. Good luck. Good luck. And we played you the clip yesterday of what he was like 4 years ago when there were already questions about his age and ability. The decline has been astonishing, and it has shocked international leaders who were leaking to the Wall Street Journal are going to be back in town this week. We'll see what they have to say about him. You have someone within the White House who leaked to the New York Times that they don't think he's up to the job. And aging is not a linear process, whether he has something like Parkinson's or not. We have seen the decline over 4 years. Another 4 years, you can think of an exponential decline occurring over that time period. It's just complete insanity to go forward with this man. But you have what he did in this interview, and he put out a letter to, I think we may have the letter we can put up on the screen.
Yeah, we can put the next one up there.
Put the next one up on the screen. Also put out a letter to congressional Democrats saying, despite all the speculation in the press and elsewhere, I'm firmly committed to staying in this race, to running this race to the end, and to beating Donald Trump. As many people have said, I will not be the first one. He has done nothing to actually alleviate the deep concerns and terror of a majority, I think a large majority of the Democratic caucus, both in the House and the Senate. He's done nothing to alleviate those concerns, but he has been effective in making it clear to them that, he is not going to go out easily, and they have to actually come at him and mount some sort of an attempted coup to try to get him out of there. It's not going to happen easily. It's basically like a murder-suicide pact. These are not courageous people. Sorry, I wish they were, but they're not. By and large, these are a bunch of cowards who really have been exposed as they certainly don't care all that much if Donald Trump gets reelected. Don't take a word they say seriously from here on out about democracy's on the ballot, Project 2025, or whatever. They clearly don't really care whether or not he gets reelected. They're more interested in maintaining their own careers, their own good standing in the party, and then a bunch of the would-be presidential contenders, they're like, okay, it works out better for me if Biden and Kamala Harris get their asses kicked in November, then she's wiped clean off the slate, and I can make my run in 2028. Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Ro Khanna, plenty of others out there who are eyeing 2028 and thinking, you know what, for me personally, in my career, it works out good if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris get their asses kicked this fall.
And they're probably right. That's the crazy thing. On an individual level, they're right. But for the country, well, that they ostensibly serve, I don't know. Maybe you're just like Donald Trump, a little bit of narcissism, right?
And one other thing I want to say about this is I think that their political calculus is dead wrong.
I agree.
Because when Biden and Kamala do lose this fall in astonishing fashion, or even if, let's say by some fluke, which I don't say is impossible, they get elected, and we then have 4 years of watching this astonishing decline and Joe Biden potentially dying in office, sorry, that's the point that we're at. You think this is going to reflect well on people who toed the line for him during this time? No, it's not. You're going to look like the people who were pushing us into Iraq war. You're going to look like all of the people who got things dead wrong in history. That's what you're going to look like. And it's not going to be good for your career, regardless of whatever little clever calculations you think that you're doing right now in the moment. The people who had the courage to come out and say, this is insane, this is unacceptable, people like Dean Phillips, who I disagree with on a lot, but he was dead right on this one. Those are the people who are going to look good. They're going to be the ones who have their careers bolstered if that's the thing you care about. And you are going to be embarrassed and humiliated and hopefully drummed down a public life for standing by this man and subjecting the country to this.
I'm glad you set that up because my prediction is that Dean Phillips's run, while quixotic at the time, will go down like Barack Obama's 2002 Iraq War speech. Nobody in 2002 gave a shit what Barack Obama had to say. In fact, there was only one camera that recorded that speech about Barack Obama. But when 2008 rolled around, what happened, Krystal? You were there. You remember. Yeah. That was the reason he became the nominee.
Was the cudgel.
Because he used it against Hillary and against the failed candidacy of John Kerry. Be like, see, this whole flip-flop policy and all that stuff in the past, it served us badly. I was there from the very beginning. I can tell you that that was the #1 reason that he beat Hillary Clinton in that primary. I believe, and I'll put the marker out here, I think Dean is going to be the front runner in 2028.
Whoa,
that
that's
very,
a bold
very
prediction.
reason. I think it was a smart play. It will go, look, also, he's filthy rich. It's never hurt before, right? So you can run those ads as much as you want. Luckily for him, it happened in the internet age. He's got plenty of things that are out there that he can point to. Julian Castro, he could try as well. Be like, see, I tried to tell you.
He was early. He was the canary in the coal mine.
And the thing is, Democrats want to win. They know. And so when Biden and the rest of the elites who stayed silent or who were complicit, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, all of these people have now come out and publicly backed Biden. Why should anyone take you seriously? 2028.
We shouldn't.
Gavin,
we should not.
Gretchen, yeah, I mean, all of these folks. So, like you said, the time for courage is now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you really want to set yourself up, then I think it's a big mistake. So, Dean, I'm on the Dean 2028 train. I'm not saying I like or agree with him or whatever. Maybe I don't know.
Listen,
what he'll do.
He took a stance that was genuinely courageous.
Yes. Yeah.
And
exactly.
Remember how they were leaking all that?
And he got kicked out of Congress.
And they were They were leaking all that nasty stuff about him to Axios. Remember that report? He took a real short-term hit because there's no other explanation for it than he truly believes. He was like, this man is too old and his decline is too advanced. This is not going to work out well. Put himself out there. He took a political hit and he deserves a lot of credit for that, even though you guys know, I've debated him. I disagree with him on a lot of things, especially Israel. But he deserves credit for that courage. You know, today, I mentioned this at the top, it is a pivotal day. You have the House and the Senate back in town. They've been away. They're all back now. Both the House and the Senate Democratic caucuses are meeting today. And so we'll see if the dam holds or the dam breaks. But I have to tell you where we stand this morning. It looks very much like the dam is holding.
That's right.
President Biden met with the Congressional Black Caucus. I mean, that's the other thing. Emily picked up on this yesterday is they've tried to really racialize this and make it like, oh, well, black people want President Biden. And it's just these white elites that want him gone, which let's just be clear, a majority of black voters, even before the debate, thought that he was too old to serve. So don't buy that nonsense. Definitely don't buy the like, oh, it's just the elites that want him out. There are some elites that want him out. We had one of them on the show yesterday, Abigail Disney. But the truth of the matter is, which ironically enough, Jake Tapper pointed out yesterday, the elites are finally catching up to where the voting public has long been. Even before the debate, you had some 70% of Americans who said this man was too old to serve. So you finally have the elites forced to admit what has been obvious to most of the country all the way along. But I digress to go back to the original point. You know, I think Democrats have become too scared to mount any sort of real opposition to him. It looks really like had a bunch of people come out yesterday like, oh, I have concerns. He's got to prove himself, but not taking a firm position. You had many more like AOC, like Ilhan Omar and others who came out and said, I'm with him. He's the guy. We're sticking by him. Hakeem Jeffries, this was also very important, saying, I've always been with Joe. I'm still with Joe. And so I think he's probably managed to get through this moment. We'll see how his big boy press conference goes. As they were discussing it yesterday, both John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre called his press conference Thursday a, quote, big boy press conference, which is so humiliating. I don't even know what to say about it. But I do think that there is an Access Hollywood parallel here, which is, Saagar, I wonder what you make of this. The assumption has been that now that the press corps and Democrats have said these things, they can't be unsaid. That now every interaction is going to be put under a microscope. You could have another bad performance for Biden where there's another round of freakouts and people defecting, et cetera. I'm not sure that that's the case because I think it's more like after Trump survived Access Hollywood, then people on the Republican side kept their mouths shut more.
That's right.
They realized, all right, well, he got through it last time, so I guess he's going to get through it again. And they just fell in line. I think at least for Democrats and probably for the media as well, that's more likely the direction we go in, is that the further away from the debate we get, the more they forget how bad it was, the more they pretend they never said the things that they said, and they just push forward with the plan because...
Look, it's a gamble. The gamble...
Whatever.
By the way, the Access Hollywood one, I'm not going to defend it, but I'll just say the Republican elites at that time, they thought they were going down to a historic loss. So what do?
Yeah.
You try and preempt it, and you call it out. It ended up being the bad gamble, and it was definitely wrong in terms of their own political futures. That said, if you were right and Trump did go down to historic loss, they would all look like geniuses, wouldn't they? And they would use that as ammunition. Now, the lesson, I think, for a lot, the thing is, too, is, and this is where I wonder what you think. I don't think the Democratic elites are playing that calculus. I think they're just cowards. Mark Warner was like, he's organizing a meeting behind the scenes. And then Biden is like, oh, he's a good man. It leaks. He cancels the meeting. You're just a coward, dude. That's not calculus. You're just scared. Hakeem Jeffries is behind the scenes, organizing calls, blah, blah, blah. Last night he comes out and he says, I support the president. Even Chuck Schumer, he comes out yesterday and he goes, I support Joe. I'm backing Joe. Or something like that. These are not full-throated endorsements. It's just the act of cowardice of the path dependence and the recognition that, look, we don't have a choice because Biden is not gonna drop out. He's basically staying in. By the way, can we put A7, please, up on the screen? Because this just shows you, too, how full of it Joe Biden is. On that call, on the MSNBC interview, he blasted Democratic elites. The very next thing he did is he called a bunch of donors and took questions. So keep that in mind. Joe Biden has now taken more questions from donors and people donating big money than the US press corps, who have had to wait now, So Thursday will be the first time that we finally get to ask questions of the president in a public setting, allegedly solo. By the way, stay tuned for this. I believe it will be straight up rigged. And what I mean by that is that, as I understand it, the credentials have already been issued for the press conference very early. That usually doesn't happen. You usually do credentials like a day or two before, something like that from the inside, just what I can offer. That also means that the White House can restrict any yahoos like yours truly from being able to sign up if they don't want to. And then they can pre-screen and talk to every single person who's going to ask a question and say, okay, you're up. President Biden will then have a list of those people like CBS News, Ed O'Keefe, AP, Reuters. Now, I'm going to give them the benefit. I don't think it's going to
be on that list anymore.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt and hope and assume that those people, because the moment is so extraordinary, they're going to override their previous biases and they're going to ask him tough questions. But the idea of the free-flowing presser, the way that Trump was, where genuinely anybody who had their hands up might have gotten called on, that's over. And I think that Biden, it's going to be very tightly controlled.
I'm sure.
The other thing is that, how long is it going to be? President Eisenhower used to do 2-hour press conferences routinely. 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Do you know Biden? He can filibuster. Let's say you take 4 questions and you take 10 minutes to answer every single one. That's a big boy press conference, right? So there's many different ways that we can rig this thing, and I've seen it all happen before. I saw the Trump people try and do it, but under Biden, I'm watching this very closely and I'm keeping my, ear to the ground about what's going on.
Well, and there's a reason why the big boy press conference isn't happening till Thursday.
Yeah, right.
Tick, tick, tick.
Yes.
And in the meanwhile, they've, kind of outflanked some of the detractors. They got the Congressional Black Caucus fully behind them. They've got Jim Clyburn in. They've got Bernie Sanders in. They've got AOC in. They've really made a push to scare people, not to convince them that Biden is up to the task. No one really believes that, but to scare them with regards to their own careers of what the consequences would be for coming out. I think it's by and large working. You still have, like I said, you still have people coming out. You had Congressman Adam Smith go public yesterday saying that he doesn't think Biden's the right person. You had Sherrod Brown in Ohio expressing a lot of concerns. Amy Klobuchar expressing a lot of concerns, but not going so far as to say that he needs to step aside. But I do think that their plan is basically working. And so by the time you get to Thursday of this week, you will have had even more Democrats close ranks. And so even if it is a catastrophe, which even with it pre-screened, rigged, whatever, God knows it could still be a total, complete catastrophe. It may be too late at that point.
Here's another easy way to rig it, because the press conference is on the heels of the NATO summit, which is happening here in Washington. So what do? You come up there, let's say you make a big announcement on Ukraine. Well, now you're kind of an idiot if you don't also ask about what's going on with Ukraine, right? So now we take some of our press conference and we just let the policy override, let's say 15 out of the 1 hour. Well, now we just took 1/4 of the entire time.
Yeah.
And here's another trick that I've seen them play before. It's called the 2 and 2. So what he'll do is maybe he's calling it solo. We'll see. Maybe he pulls in Emmanuel Macron. Now, the French reporters get to ask some questions. You think the French care about what's going on with Joe Biden? They're going to ask Macron about whatever is going on in the parliament. And so Biden sits there, and then they'll ask Biden some stupid question, which the foreign press usually does. Be like, do you still support France? And he's like, yes, France is our easy. Now I got another question box that's checked. So there's all these different ways, that we're watching for. And the more that you delay, now you've got Hakeem on the record, you got Chuck Schumer on the record. Imagine if he had gone on the record the day after that debate and it was a disaster. Well, then Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are in a much more untenable position. So I think he's going to ride it out. And this is just craziness. It's just straight rate. It's absolute insanity what's happening. I still cannot believe he's actually running for another term. It's just shocking.
It is utter madness, and we are all here to witness it.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.